It was supposed to be the happiest day of our family's life. My younger sister, Olivia Hayes, was marrying into one of the wealthiest families in town, the Carters. The church was decorated like something out of a magazine, with white roses, crystal chandeliers, and a string quartet playing softly in the background. Everyone's eyes sparkled with admiration as they watched the bride being fussed over. My mother, Madison Hayes, hovered around Olivia, adjusting her veil, kissing her on the cheek, and whispering how proud she was. Meanwhile, I stood in the corner, clutching a bouquet I wasn't even meant to hold. I wasn't part of the bridal party, even though I was Olivia's only sister. I wasn't the maid of honor. That role belonged to her college roommate, Lauren Scott. I am Madison Hayes, 32 years old, and for as long as I can remember, I've been invisible in my own family. Growing up, it was always Olivia who shined. She was the golden child, the one my parents, Catherine and Robert Hayes, adored. When Olivia got good grades, there were celebrations. When I did, there was silence. When Olivia landed a role in the school play, my mother cried tears of joy. When I won a statewide essay competition, she barely glanced up from her newspaper. I learned early on that love in my family was conditional, and yet, I stayed. I tried to be the supportive sister, the dutiful daughter, the quiet presence who didn't cause trouble. I became a nurse, working long hours at the hospital under Dr. Reynolds, my supervisor, and reporting to Dr. Mitchell, my therapist, when the weight of neglect became too heavy. But no matter what I achieved, it was never enough. Now, standing in that lavish church, I felt the sting sharper than ever. My grandmother, Evelyn Hayes, gave me a pitying smile from the pews, but even she had long stopped interfering. Olivia was the star of the show, and I was just background. "Madison, could you move a little?" my mother hissed, gesturing for me to step away so the photographer could get a clean shot of Olivia with the Carter family. The Carter family, Daniel Carter, the groom, handsome and poised, his elegant sister, Emily Carter, his father, Christopher Carter, and their matriarch, Victoria Carter. They radiated wealth and prestige, the kind my parents had always dreamed of associating with. To them, Olivia's marriage was not just about love, it was about status, connections, and stepping into a world they could never enter on their own. As I moved out of the frame, my heart sank. I remembered a time, years ago, when I thought I'd be the one standing at the altar. I was engaged once to Jason Miller, but that ended in betrayal when I discovered he had been unfaithful. My family hadn't comforted me then either. In fact, my mother had scolded me for embarrassing them with a failed engagement. "Olivia deserves happiness," Catherine would always say, "and we can't let anything overshadow her future, overshadow her." That was my life in 2 words. As the ceremony began, I sat quietly in the back pew, watching as Olivia glided down the aisle, radiant in lace and pearls. My father, Robert, walked her proudly, beaming as if he'd just won the lottery. I tried to swallow the lump in my throat. The vows were exchanged, the rings slipped on, and when the priest pronounced them husband and wife, the church erupted in applause. I clapped too, forcing a smile, though my insides twisted painfully. At the reception, things only got worse. The banquet hall glittered with chandeliers, champagne towers, and tables overflowing with gourmet food. Everyone mingled, laughing, congratulating, dancing. Everyone except me. "Madison, could you help in the kitchen?" Catherine asked sweetly, her tone masking the command beneath. "The caterers need an extra pair of hands, and you're so good at helping." I froze. I was her daughter, not a servant. But I'd learned long ago that refusal only led to guilt trips and cold shoulders. So I nodded and obeyed. While Olivia danced with Daniel under a canopy of fairy lights, I stood in the kitchen, stacking plates, arranging hors d'oeuvres, and fetching wine bottles. The laughter and music from the ballroom seeped in through the doors, each note a reminder of where I didn't belong. I wanted to scream, but instead, I smiled politely when one of the servers thanked me. Hours later, I finally slipped out to catch my breath. That's when I overheard a conversation that made my blood run cold. Near the terrace, Catherine and Robert were speaking to Christopher and Victoria Carter. "She's perfect for Daniel," Catherine gushed about Olivia. "Unlike Madison, who's always been difficult." My chest tightened. Victoria chuckled softly. "Yes, Olivia will fit in beautifully. Daniel deserves the best. And as for Madison, well, every family has one, don't they?" They laughed. Every family has one. I stumbled back, the words slicing into me like knives. For them, I wasn't Madison Hayes, a woman with her own dreams and struggles. I was just the difficult one, the leftover, the invisible shadow. Tears stung my eyes, but I wiped them quickly. They couldn't see me cry. Not anymore. That night, as the wedding ended and Olivia and Daniel drove off in their limo, showered in rose petals and cheers, I stood alone in the parking lot. The cold wind brushed against my face, but it couldn't numb the ache in my chest. I wasn't just excluded, I was erased. And yet, deep down I felt something shift. I didn't know it then, but this was only the beginning. The night my sister's wedding marked not just the end of my silence, but the start of a storm none of them could ever imagine. The morning after the wedding, I returned to my small apartment, the walls still echoing with the laughter I had been excluded from. I sat on the edge of my bed staring at my phone as message after message poured in. Not for me, of course, but about Olivia. Photos of her dress, clips of her first dance with Daniel, congratulations from extended family members who hadn't spoken to me in years. My notifications were filled with her name, her happiness, her triumph. I tossed the phone aside and buried my face in my hands. For 32 years, I had swallowed my silence, but something inside me was beginning to fracture. When I arrived at work the next day, I was already drained. The hospital corridors buzzed with life as patients were wheeled past, doctors barked orders, and nurses rushed between rooms. I slipped into my role, focusing on my patients, but the ache from the night before clung to me like a shadow. Later, during rounds, Dr. Reynolds handed me a chart. "Madison, good work with Mr. Carter's recovery plan," he said, nodding. I forced a smile. Praise was rare in my personal life, but at least here, I was valued. Or so I thought. That illusion shattered when I overheard two board members talking near the staff lounge. "Isn't she Olivia's sister?" one whispered. "The Hayes girl who tried for the head nurse position?" "Yes, but she didn't get it," the other replied. "Word is Olivia made sure of that. Connections with Dr. Sullivan on the board, remember?" I froze, my blood turning to ice. Olivia, sabotaging my career? I stumbled back into the restroom, my breath coming in shallow gasps. It couldn't be true. Olivia had everything. Beauty, charm, wealth now. Why would she need to take from me the little I had built for myself? But deep down I knew. Olivia didn't just want to shine. She wanted to ensure I never did. The pieces clicked painfully into place. The lost promotion, the mysterious rejection letters from jobs I had applied for, the strained looks from supervisors who once supported me, all traced back to her. I thought about Dr. Mitchell, my therapist, and her words, "Madison, sometimes it's not about what you're doing wrong. Sometimes it's about what others can't allow you to do right." That evening, I visited my grandmother, Evelyn Hayes. She lived alone now, her once sharp eyes softened by age but still full of quiet wisdom. "Grandma," I whispered, tears pooling in my eyes. "Did you know about Olivia?" She sighed heavily, setting down her knitting. "I suspected. Your mother. Catherine has always favored Olivia, and Robert never challenged her. They built Olivia up at your expense. I tried to stop it once, but Catherine shut me out. She told me it was for the family's future." "For the family's future," I echoed bitterly. Evelyn took my hand. "Madison, you've carried this silence too long. You can't keep letting them erase you. One day, you'll have to stand up, not just for yourself, but for the truth." Her words lit a small flame in me, but it flickered uncertainly. I had never been the one to confront, to fight. That role belonged to Olivia, bold and cunning, never afraid to step on others to climb higher. The days that followed only confirmed my grandmother's warnings. At the hospital, whispers spread of Olivia's influence, her dinners with Dr. Sullivan, her charm with board members. At home, my parents basked in the glow of her marriage, inviting neighbors over to boast about their new connections with the Carter family. One evening, I joined them reluctantly for dinner. Catherine gushed over Olivia's honeymoon photos, Robert chuckled with pride, and Olivia herself sat across from me, her smile just a little too smug. "So, Madison," she said sweetly, "how's work? Still the same?" The table erupted in polite laughter, and I felt my cheeks burn. They were laughing at me, at my stagnation, at the career that had been quietly strangled by her behind the scenes. I clenched my fists under the table, forcing myself to stay calm. But when Olivia leaned in and whispered, "You'll never be me, Madison." "Stop trying," something in me snapped. I pushed back my chair and stood. The laughter died instantly. "I'm not trying to be you," I said, my voice shaking. "I never wanted to be you. But one day, everyone will see who you really are." For a moment, silence hung heavy in the air. Catherine's eyes narrowed. Robert cleared his throat awkwardly and Olivia smirked, as if daring me to prove it. I stormed out, my heart pounding, unsure whether I had just declared war or finally taken my first step toward freedom. Back in my apartment, I collapsed onto the couch, shaking. My phone buzzed with a new message, an unknown number. Hesitantly, I opened it. It was a photo of Olivia. Sitting across from Dr. Sullivan at a restaurant, leaning close, laughing. Attached was a message. "Ask her how she really got Daniel." My breath caught. This wasn't just about my career. Olivia's web of lies stretched further, deeper. For the first time in years, I didn't feel powerless. I felt angry, and anger, I realized, could be the start of something new. I looked out the window at the city lights, my reflection staring back at me. This wasn't just about being overlooked anymore. This was about survival, and Olivia had just made her biggest mistake, underestimating me. The following week at the hospital felt like walking through a storm I couldn't see but could feel on my skin. Every glance lingered too long. Every whispered conversation stopped when I entered the room. The message about Olivia and Dr. Sullivan burned in my pocket like a live coal. I replayed it over and over. Her leaning close, laughing, dining with a man powerful enough to make or break careers. Powerful enough to push me down and lift her up. During rounds, Dr. Reynolds pulled me aside. "Madison, I've received some troubling reports about your performance. Sloppiness in charting, delays with medication distribution." His eyes softened. "This doesn't sound like you. Is something going on? Sloppiness? Delays?" I was meticulous. I wanted to scream, "This is Olivia's doing." But how could I prove it? Instead, I nodded, biting back tears. Later, in the staff lounge, I overheard another whisper. "She only got that position because her sister is married to Daniel Carter. Didn't you hear? She has connections with Sullivan. Poor Madison never stood a chance." Their laughter rang in my ears. Poor Madison. That night I visited Dr. Mitchell, my therapist. Sitting in the quiet office, I finally let the words spill out. "She's been sabotaging me, Dr. Mitchell. At work, in my relationships. Everywhere. And now I have proof. A photo of her with Sullivan." Dr. Mitchell leaned forward, eyes sharp. "And how do you plan to use this information, Madison?" I froze. I hadn't thought that far ahead. Proof was one thing. Action was another. "I don't know," I admitted. "But I can't let her keep destroying me." "Then you'll need to decide," Dr. Mitchell said gently. "Do you want to expose her or free yourself from her shadow?" Her words haunted me. For years I had lived under Olivia's shadow. Could I really step out? Or would I always be trapped, defined by her cruelty? The opportunity to act came sooner than I expected. My parents invited me to a family dinner at their house. When I arrived, the air was thick with tension. Catherine Hayes greeted me with a strained smile, while Robert Hayes avoided my eyes. Olivia and Daniel Carter sat at the head of the table, radiating power and confidence. Halfway through dinner, Catherine raised her glass. "To Olivia and Daniel, we are so proud of the life you're building. Madison," she added with a thin smile, Perhaps one day you'll find someone too. My stomach churned. I wanted to scream, to throw the photo of Olivia and Sullivan onto the table. But before I could, Olivia herself leaned in. Actually, Mother, she said sweetly, Madison has always been too focused on her little nursing job to think about marriage. Isn't that right, Madison? The room erupted in polite laughter, but Daniel's brow furrowed ever so slightly. I clenched my fists under the table. Enough. I pulled out my phone, scrolling to the message. My hand trembled as I placed it on the table. The photo of Olivia and Sullivan glaring up at us all. The laughter died instantly. What is this? Daniel demanded, his voice sharp. Olivia's face went pale. It's nothing. Just a business dinner. Really? I asked, my voice steady for the first time in years. Because it looks like more than business. And funny how my promotion disappeared right after this little meeting. The room fell silent. Catherine's eyes darted between us. Robert shifted uncomfortably, and Evelyn, sitting quietly at the end of the table, finally spoke. I warned you, Catherine, she said softly. Favoring one child at the expense of another destroys families. Olivia's mask cracked. Her composure slipped, replaced by raw anger. You're just jealous, Madison. You've always been jealous. I worked for everything I have. Worked? I cut her off. Or schemed. You sabotaged my career. You sabotaged my engagement to Jason Miller. You made sure every opportunity slipped through my fingers. All because you couldn't stand me succeeding. Gasps rippled around the table. Daniel's jaw tightened. Is this true, Olivia? He asked. She stammered, searching for words, but the silence that followed was louder than any denial. I stood, my chair scraping against the floor. I've had enough. I won't be your scapegoat anymore. I won't be invisible. For the first time in years, the room wasn't filled with Olivia's laughter or Catherine's boasting. It was filled with my voice, strong and unshaken. I walked out, my heart racing, tears stinging my eyes, not of pain, but of release. Outside, the night air wrapped around me like a balm. I didn't know what came next. I didn't know if Daniel would leave her, if my parents would ever acknowledge the truth, if the hospital would ever see me differently. But for the first time, I wasn't afraid. The unraveling had begun, and Olivia Hayes would soon learn that the sister she dismissed as nothing was far stronger than she ever imagined. The days following that dinner were a blur of whispers, cold stares, and unanswered questions. I had cracked Olivia's perfect facade, but the fallout was more complicated than I could have imagined. At the hospital, colleagues looked at me differently, not with pity anymore, but with curiosity, even respect. Dr. Reynolds approached me after rounds. I've been reviewing those reports about you, he said, his tone thoughtful. There are inconsistencies, mistakes that don't fit your work history. I'm launching an inquiry. A flicker of hope stirred in me. Maybe, just maybe, the truth was finally seeping out. But Olivia didn't go quietly. She showed up at my apartment one evening, her eyes blazing. Without waiting for an invitation, she pushed past me into the living room. How dare you? She hissed. How dare you humiliate me in front of my husband, my parents, everyone? I stood firm. How dare you ruin my life for years? You think you can manipulate everyone forever, Olivia, but people are starting to see who you really are. Her lip curled. You think Daniel will choose you over me? Don't be ridiculous. He's mine. He always will be. This isn't about Daniel, I said, my voice trembling but steady. It's about me. It's about you trying to erase me from my own family. For a moment, something flickered in her eyes. Fear, maybe, but it vanished quickly. You're weak, Madison, she spat. You always have been. And no matter what you do, you'll always be beneath me. She stormed out, slamming the door so hard the frame rattled. I sank onto the couch, my body shaking. Weak. The word echoed in my mind. But this time, instead of breaking me, it lit a fire inside. That night, I called Evelyn. She's unraveling, I told her. But I don't know how much longer I can hold on. Evelyn's voice was calm but firm. You've already done more than most would. You stood up to her. You spoke the truth. That's strength, Madison, not weakness. Her words anchored me. I realized then that exposing Olivia wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming myself. The next day, I was summoned to a meeting at the hospital boardroom. Dr. Sullivan was there, along with Dr. Reynolds and several administrators. My heart pounded as I entered. Madison, Dr. Reynolds began, we've concluded our review. It appears the errors in your records were deliberately inserted. The system logs show unauthorized access under someone else's credentials. My breath caught. Who? Dr. Sullivan shifted uncomfortably, his eyes darting away. Reynolds continued. We're still investigating, but we suspect collusion. You are cleared of all allegations. Relief washed over me, but it was tinged with anger. Sullivan knew more than he admitted. I could see it in his face. And if he was tied to Olivia, then the web was bigger than I'd realized. That evening, I received a message from Daniel. We need to talk. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him at a quiet cafe. He looked tired, his usual confidence dulled. Is it true? He asked without preamble. About Olivia sabotaging you? About Sullivan? I nodded. You've seen the photo. You've seen her reaction. Do you really need me to confirm it? He ran a hand through his hair, exhaling heavily. I married her because I thought she was strong, ambitious, untouchable. But now, I don't know who she is anymore. My chest tightened. For years, Daniel had been part of the pedestal Olivia stood on, the symbol of everything I lacked. And now here he was, questioning everything. I'm not asking you to choose sides, I said softly. I just want the truth out. Daniel's eyes met mine, conflicted but sincere. Then maybe it's time someone finally holds her accountable. The breaking point came at another family gathering. My parents, desperate to restore some semblance of order, insisted we all come together. Catherine fussed over Olivia, while Robert sat in stony silence. Evelyn, as always, was the quiet observer. Halfway through dinner, Olivia launched into one of her speeches about her perfect life, her job, her marriage, her future. But this time, Daniel interrupted. Enough, he said sharply. The room fell silent. Madison showed me the evidence. I know what you've been doing, Olivia. To her, to others. I can't stand by anymore. Olivia's face twisted in fury. You're believing her over me? Your own wife? Daniel's jaw clenched. I'm believing the truth, Catherine gasped, dropping her fork. Robert looked away, shame etched into his features. Evelyn's eyes glistened with quiet vindication. Olivia's composure shattered. You're all against me. You've always been against me. Madison has poisoned you, turned you against your own daughter, your own sister. Her voice rose to a shriek, but no one moved to comfort her. No one defended her. For the first time, Olivia Hayes stood exposed, her power crumbling before our eyes. I didn't gloat. I didn't celebrate. I simply sat there, my hands steady, my voice calm. This isn't about sides, I said quietly. It's about truth. And the truth is finally here. Olivia fled the table, her sobs echoing down the hall. The silence she left behind was heavy, but it wasn't suffocating. It was freeing. For the first time, I felt the weight lifting. The breaking point had come, and this time it wasn't mine. In the days after Olivia's outburst, the atmosphere in the Hayes household shifted. For years, Olivia had dominated every conversation, every celebration, every memory. But now, her absence was louder than her presence had ever been. Catherine, once so quick to sing Olivia's praises, now moved through the house with a stunned silence. Robert, whose silence had always felt like complicity, finally broke one evening. I should have spoken up years ago, he confessed quietly as we sat in the living room. I saw how she treated you, Madison. I thought it was sibling rivalry. I told myself you were strong enough to handle it. But I was wrong. I failed you. Tears burned my eyes, but I forced a small smile. It's not too late, Dad. What matters is you see it now. For the first time in decades, I felt seen by my father. Meanwhile, at the hospital, the inquiry deepened. Dr. Sullivan's connections unraveled under scrutiny. He resigned abruptly, his reputation in tatters. Whispers circulated that Olivia had leaned on him for favors, and with his downfall, her shield collapsed entirely. Colleagues who once dismissed me now sought me out. "I'm sorry," one nurse admitted. "We should have realized something was wrong." Their apologies didn't erase the years of humiliation, but they were a start. Daniel, too, made his choice. One evening he knocked on my door, his eyes weary but determined. "I've filed for separation," he said simply. "Olivia needs help, but I can't give it to her, and I can't stay in a marriage built on lies." I searched his face, expecting to feel triumph, vindication, something sharp and powerful, but what I felt was different. Relief, yes, but also release. "Daniel," I said softly, "thank you for seeing the truth, but my life isn't about you. Not anymore." He nodded, a flicker of respect in his eyes. "I know, and I hope you find the happiness you deserve." As he left, I realized the pedestal I had placed him on for so long had crumbled too. Daniel Carter wasn't my savior. He never had been. The true turning point came when Evelyn invited me to lunch. She handed me a simple envelope. "I've updated my will," she said matter-of-factly. "You'll find your name there now. I wanted you to know you're not forgotten. You never were." I blinked back tears. "Evelyn, I don't care about inheritance." "I know," she replied with a small smile. "That's why I want you to have it. Because you've always valued people, not things. You deserve a future free of shadows." Her words sank deep into my heart. For the first time in years, I believed them. Weeks turned into months. Olivia disappeared from the public eye, her once flawless image shattered. Rumors swirled, but I didn't chase them. I had no interest in her downfall. My focus was on rebuilding myself. I enrolled in a leadership program at the hospital, determined to rise not because of family connections, but because of my own merit. I volunteered for community outreach projects, pouring my energy into helping others instead of fighting ghosts. Slowly, the pieces of my life began to fit together. Not the life Olivia had tried to dictate, but the one I chose for myself. The final thread snapped the day Catherine approached me, her face lined with regret. "Madison," she said hesitantly. "I was wrong. I let myself believe Olivia was flawless, and I ignored your pain. I can't undo the past, but I want to make amends." I looked at her, my mother, the woman whose approval I had chased my entire life, and for the first time I didn't feel desperate for her love. I felt whole. "I forgive you," I said gently, "but my life isn't defined by your approval anymore." Her eyes filled with tears, and for once, I didn't feel like the invisible daughter. I felt like myself. One evening, as I walked through the city streets, the lights shimmering above me, I realized the journey wasn't about Olivia's betrayal, Daniel's choice, or even my parents' recognition. It was about me finally stepping into my own light. Olivia Hayes had tried to sabotage me for years. She had taken pieces of my career, my relationships, my confidence, but she hadn't taken my spirit. And now she never would. I paused on the highest corner, breathing in the night air, the weight of years lifting from my shoulders. This was my breaking free. This was my new beginning. And for the first time in my 32 years, I wasn't standing in anyone's shadow. I was standing in my own power,